out of this house's apartments, 15 or 16 or 17 or more cases. We've been looking at the case of books for younger readers. And we're down on those bottom two shelves now. Oh, one last series. Unlikely Loves and Unlikely Friendships. Cute pictures of animal friends. Pretty cool. We keep these animal ones. They were my daughter Willow's. She really loved them when she was little. Also on that shelf. This is considered like a famous kind of gothic fantasy for younger readers or readers of all ages. People that know it really love it. I always meant to read this to my kids. I don't think we ever did. Creepy Castle, Gormenghast. Many readers admire Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, but fans of Mervyn Peake's Titus trilogy maintain that this extravagant epic about a labyrinthine castle populated with conniving Dickensian grotesques is the true fantasy classic of our time. Washington Post Book World. I mean, yeah, that kind of high praise makes you want to check something out. We used to have pretty much all of these, but I only kept this first one. It's crazy. The plot of this book, Famous Five on a Treasure Island, is so identical to the plot, including many of the details of her book, The Treasure Hunters. And I grew up with that book, The Treasure Hunters. My kids grew up with this series, and I grew up with this series a little bit too. Enid Blyton is much more popular in Europe than in America. For young people that were growing up in the 80s in Europe, Enid Blyton books were everywhere. She had a number of series, and this was one of them, Five on a Treasure Island. Some famous five. There's a character, George, who hates that she's a girl. Just wants to be considered a boy. There's a little kid that never ages, despite being kidnapped a million times. It's one of those weird Simpson-esque universes, Archie-esque worlds, where the characters stay the same from book to book, and there's like 20 of them written by her. Some of the later titles are just, like kind of silly. The Famous Five Have a Lot of Fun. That's one of them. I used to joke with the kids about fake titles. I'd be like, the Famous Five tickle each other and laugh. My son would lose it. Here's the little one. When I purged the books down, this was a very popular book, but the later books in this series really did a psychological number on my son Hagen when he was really little. They had a kidnapping plot line, and he couldn't handle it. It's too scary to I gave him kind of a neurosis. Maybe my older daughter Anodyne too, because she put a sign up in her window against kidnappers. It was all, if you kidnap anyone, attention robbers, if you kidnap anyone in this house, you will go to jail. But in both this book and Enid Blyton's book, The Treasure Seekers, there is an underground, undersea passage that leads to this island through this ruin on the kids' property. Both of them, etc. But I love The Treasure Seekers so much growing up. I read and reread that book so many times. I'm surprised we don't still have a copy. But either it's a ripoff of this or this is a ripoff of that. 1,000 fascinating animal facts. Like, this could totally go in just the nonfiction section. Why is this in the young people's books section? Keep it here for now because I know Willow loves the animal books. This, I've really been meaning to read this. I read a lot of it, and I tried to get my kids to let me read it to them. Look at this beautifully designed book. I know this is a favorite of Anna Wallace Johnson, that booktuber. And I don't even think she talks about it like it's for young people. It's just a concise work of linear history, which I think that is true. It does have a quote from Philip Pullman on it. Lucky children will have this book read to them. Intelligent adults will read it for themselves and regain contact with the spirit of European humanism at its best. Yeah, I do want to read that. That's one of the books I'm most likely to read from this case very soon. I love big surveys like that. and everyone has blind spots. And once you know it's all just one big story, you can connect everything to everything. I read a book on Charlemagne. I'm like, this is so interesting and relevant. Oh, this Brian Selznick has a really interesting half visual style. He won a Caldecott for Hugo, I think, which is cool. This is an ARC I got when I was working at Bookworks. I've seen the movie. I've not read the book. I remember it being a cool story. I must have read the book. This thing's short. Just don't remember it really. This is a great book. But this is another series that later on in the series like traumatized my son Hagen. It was just too creepy. Real gothic sensibility. Made into a movie with Jack Black not too long ago. But I liked this writer when I was a kid. I always felt like, who is this? Something different. Often artwork or something by Edward Gorey. This book I loved. I read this so many times growing up. The Wish Giver by Velvet. I think my kids liked it too. It's just a good one. Cool, magical, fairy tale like monkey's paw type stuff. One person turns into a tree and takes root. One person turns into a donkey. It's an epic flood. All the wishes backfire. And these cards, you press the wax dot on them. It's a beautiful old copy of Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. It's a book from the 1700s in with the other kids' books of modern times. It's cool. This was one of the earliest chapter books I ever read. Robinson Crusoe, I read it in 2nd grade, and it felt like a real feat. And it really took over my imaginative inner world. I love the idea of it. Watched many movie adaptations of it too. Yeah, it's a pretty copy. Footprints on the cover and palm trees on the spine. Nice. This was another series I loved. Loved it. There were hundreds of these, and I read 100 of them, I bet, for sure. They were quick reads, but I love that this gang of friends had a secret junkyard to hide out underneath all the junk of this kid's dad's junkyard, and that they had access to a free limo that they won from a contest, so they could get all around in this hilarious way. A year's worth of limo. This has been kind of cool going over these old books, because these kids' books, because I find things from people that have died in my life that I loved. Hi, Mikey. Matt and I loved the 3 Investigators series, and this was our favorite book. We used to sit under his trundle bed and read together so we wouldn't get too scared. Have fun. Love, Lion. Bone-chilling mystery in a haunted house. My sister Leanne and my brother Matt, who she refers to there, they were born exactly 1 year apart. They had the same birth date and were pretty close, but they were very different. Leanne ended up like a bohemian academic, totally not Mormon at all, and took her own life in 2001. And Matt stayed really, really Mormon, but died of a million different health problems. Cover too. In fact, I recall all these having great covers. They must have contracted original art for each one. That's pretty cool. Later in the series, Alfred Hitchcock, the nonfiction figure, becomes a fictional part of their world. And they're always meeting up with him and consulting with him. He's like their leader. What? Right? Even though I got rid of the many, many books I had from this series in stages over my life, I used to have paperback and hardcover from it. This one I couldn't get rid of because of that inscription. And because if you are unsure if your kids are going to read a series, I guess, and you're looking at a collection that used to be yours, just keep the first one, If they get into it, then you can acquire the other ones again. When my daughter Anodyne, who's now 20, was really little, she got obsessed with this book. She loved this book. She wanted to be Sadako for Halloween so bad and wore a kimono. And I thought she was too young for making her feel bad about cultural appropriation or anything. She didn't, darken her skin or anything like that. But it's a beautiful, based on a true story of of a girl who's terminally ill with radiation sickness. I think from the bombing of Hiroshima. Yeah. And before she dies, she wants to make 1,000 paper cranes out of origami. And she doesn't do it, I think, before she dies. 644, and then other kids, her classmates, folded the rest. It's great to see the power of a book on a young mind. And it's great to see a good story of someone's human life kept alive, Leonardo da Vinci. This is one of the books, even though this is for younger readers, this is a good basic introduction to